My name's Adele Onyango and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to episode 244 of Legally Clueless podcast. Thanks for rocking with this pod. If you are an OG member, I've got nothing but love for you. As always, you know this. And to the newbies, audio episodes like this go out every single Monday, and you can catch them everywhere you find podcasts on. Make sure you join our official family by signing up on our website. That's legallycluelessafrica.com. And then join our cozy corner of the internet. We're on Instagram at Legally Clueless Africa and TikTok as well. Links to everything I've said are in the show notes, including the link to our YouTube channel, which is really awesome right now. I'm loving the conversations there around our latest series, which is Legally Clueless After Hours. In fact, the last couple of comments that I saw were talking about one of the episodes where a conversation on divorce and children came up, which is so crazy because that's going to come up a little later in this episode. First and foremost, song of the week. Let me tell you, I'm so happy this album has been nominated for a Grammy. I normally don't really follow anything Grammy related because I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Has nothing to do with us over here. But I love this album. I love everything it stands for. It found me at the perfect time of my life. And I'm talking about The Age of Pleasure by Janelle Monae. Yeah. I love that. I love that entire album. Every woman needs to listen to it, especially African women. Please listen to it. So the song of the week is from that album. It's Phenomenal, as in that's the name of the song, but it's also phenomenal. And it's just, it just really puts me in the mood. It hypes me up. I love the words. I think where I connect with them is when she's talking about, she's looking at 1,000 versions of herself and they're all fine as fuck. Obviously, she probably has her own meanings when she's writing those lyrics. But for me, I was just thinking about the many versions of myself they have been. And even the ones that I look back on and I'm just like, hey, babe, what is happening there? I still love them, even the damaged versions of myself who made decisions that I would never make today. I still love them. And so that's how I connect with the song. So I'll put a link to it in the show notes. Please go and listen to it. And if you haven't yet, listen to the entire album. It's one of my favorite albums this year. For sure. So this week, I was supposed to be sharing with you part 2 of Monica's story. Like, it's edited and ready to go. Like that was the plan, all right? That was the plan. But trust me to flip the script because all of a sudden, I feel so filled up with love. And so that's what I want to talk about, just off script. This is completely off script, right? It's just so funny how I've done it because legit, you were meant to be listening to part 2 of Monica's story. But anyway, so last month I went to New York, which to share a story at a huge Moth show. For those of you who do not know, the Moth is the storytelling organization I often work with, and yeah, you just go on stage and you share a story of something you've experienced. It's wonderful. And they do this globally and they're such wonderful people. And I love being anywhere the Moth is. So flew to New York to be part of a huge show by them. It was held in the Greenwood Cemetery, which I thought was pretty cool. All my African friends in New York refused to come because they were just like, surely a cemetery, but whatever. It was great. And what happens after you share a story at a Moth show is they also have the Moth podcast, which is downloaded 100 million times annually. I pray our podcast gets there. And they also have the Moth radio that's listened to globally, right? So from the stories, they select which of those stories that have been shared on stage at their shows get to be on the podcast and radio. And it's like a tough selection. I just found out that the story I shared in New York this year has been selected and will be on the Moth podcast and the Moth radio. Woot. ooh. Those are my happy sounds, all right? Now, what does this have to do with love? I told a story in New York that I thought I was too scared to share in Kenya. And I figured, let me tell it in New York where no one knows me. And it's the story of my divorce and my first Christmas after my divorce that ended up being my best Christmas in the longest time ever. Yes, I am divorced. I have been for a while. And a part of me thought that the reason I was keeping it to myself and not even sharing it with you, like this is like the safest space ever, right? A part of me thought I wasn't doing that because I thought that maybe I wanted to navigate it first before sharing it. And I thought that was why I wasn't sharing it even here on this like podcast. That's my safe space, you know? A part of me thought that perhaps I wasn't sharing about it because I wanted to ensure that my ex can navigate the change without any noise, you know? But I've come to the realization that it was shame. There is so much shame that comes with divorce. It's almost like you failed in this group project that society set out for you. Remember those group projects from uni? Exactly. And at first, I thought I was ashamed about it. So I thought it was shame stemming from within. But with time, you know, over the years, I have found, yes, it's been years, I have found that from within, I have felt many feelings, but never a self-birthed shame. You know, I was absorbing emotions when it came to shame that had been projected my way. Okay? Back to love. Let me tell you, and this is like a realization, and it's probably going to be one of the many mantras I carry with me through my life. Whatever feels or seems like it's breaking you ends up gifting you so much. For me, my divorce in that period, navigating it, I have gained such deep insights on love. Oh my God. So I had to, in the process of healing, interrogate my reasons for marriage. And to be honest, what I found was that mine was rooted in fear. For years, I have, from childhood, obviously accumulated different wounds. Father wounds, mother wounds, abandonment issues, sexual trauma issues, and all of these wounds have made me run from relationship to relationship, looking to fill a void and to feel less alone. So my decision, as much as yes, there was love, was really fueled by wanting to feel safe, wanting to feel wanted, wanting to feel not alone. So love, the process of healing the parts of me that make these decisions that are fueled by fear have meant loving myself enough to go to the most broken parts of me. Loving myself enough to process emotions I've been running away from. Loving myself enough to let myself feel all the emotions that are in these broken parts. The key here was to love myself actively and consciously. Now, in the process of that, the person I have found myself to be is definitely not who I was performing to be in the past. So even when I look at things I may have lost, relationships I may have lost in the past, a part of me doesn't feel so sad because that version of me was performative, you know? That was definitely not who I am. So really, love has gifted me back to me. Love has also meant that I keep my mind, my spirit, and my body healthy. The last bit, my body has always been the most tricky for me. I have a very complicated relationship with food and with exercise. And so I've had to really confront that, you know? So even last week when I told you about my new GP, I was so proud when I was driving back home from seeing her. And it was an intense session. Like my appointment started at 2 and I was leaving her clinic at 6:30 p.m. And I was tired. I had tons of meds with me that with all sorts of directions and when to take them or to eat, so much. But even in all of that heaviness, I was so proud of myself for loving myself enough to go see her. Consciously loving myself to be able to show up for my body and ensure that it's healthy. These are decisions that I wasn't necessarily making the way I should have been making them in the past because, to be honest, I don't think I loved myself consciously and intentionally. Loving myself has made me realize how worthy I am of my dreams and how capable I am of achieving them. No matter how far-fetched or against the grain the dreams are, in my head right now, nothing is impossible. I am capable of anything I set my mind to doing. And I remember driving, and one of my dreams is to buy land somewhere green and build an A-framed cottage. That's something in my head that I see and that I want, And, obviously I have other things I want on that land, like I want trees, orange trees, etc. But this one's, by the way, these are Madoidos. The main thing is this A-framed cottage is like fucking stuck in my head, right? And I've downloaded designs and everything. And I remember this one time during this period of just immense healing, I was driving where I stay, and I stay in a little, well, not so little. It's a farm town that has tons of tea farms. And I'm driving through the tea farms and it hits me all of a sudden, almost like I didn't think I was capable of it before. It hits me, hang on, this dream is very possible. We can achieve this shit, girl. We can do this right now. And I get home and I start drawing up my plans to be able to actualize this dream. And I don't think I would think I was able to do it. And this goes to all the other dreams and ambitions I have. I don't think if I hadn't loved on myself and loved myself, I would have understood how capable I am of achieving and actualizing these dreams. Loving myself has helped me love others. This is a beautiful one, to really see them. It was someone I love's birthday. Oh wait, tomorrow is a birthday, but we celebrated it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. And this was the first time I was gifting someone, not from my lens, but really seeing what exactly they want and doing things according to their plan. This seems like something so tiny, but even if you think about gifts, I love looking at relationships through the lens of gifts. Not from a materialistic lens, no, but from a how well do you understand this person and do you really see them? For example, I had a friendship where the person every year on my birthday would gift me silver jewelry. I never wear silver jewelry. I never wear silver jewelry. And they wear silver jewelry. And it was always so confusing to me because then I would just be like, oh, thanks. But then I would never wear this jewelry. And and it's happened in very many other relationships as well, right? And it just always is such, for me, I don't know about you, not from a materialistic lens, but to really see who sees you. It may be an unfair yardstick in some regards, but I feel like if the relationship is close enough, I can gauge if I'm being seen or not, because I'm pretty easy to see, I hope, and very easy to gift, but clearly, yeah. So anyway, loving myself has helped me love others so much better. Anyone who is divorced will tell you how you lose tons of people in your life. And I think when we phrase that statement, where people's minds go to is the people who will judge you, etc. I mean, yes, there's that, but I think it's deeper than that when we look at that statement. Because of the deep transformation you go through, the understanding while loving yourself how you want to be loved, you realize that in some relationships you'd settled. In some, maybe you weren't showing up for the other person. In some, maybe your core values were misaligned. In some, you just settled. You know what I mean? And the real you may not belong in those places anymore. You start to see and feel this as you're going through this transformation. But guess what? The places you will find belonging will be so sweet. I have very few friends right now, and I love them deeply. One of them writes me the most beautiful love letters. I love letters, handwritten letters, and she always writes me love letters. It's the sweetest thing ever. One of them cooks me the best meals, and whenever I sleep at her house, I feel so rejuvenated. I can tell her anything. There's absolutely no room for shame in our love. And even deeper than that, like, I am a PDA person. Like, I want to be hugged. I want to hold hands. And I find this in this friendship. One of them has always been the spark that has taught me what love is and how to love. And yeah, that one is probably the deepest love relationship I've ever experienced. So there is so much love for the new you after you transform from healing, from whatever it is, and after you transform because you have just started consciously and intentionally loving yourself. When I say loving others, I don't mean it in like a romanticized way where you don't see people as they are. Instead, you see them as perfect. Not only does perfection not exist, but I think it's a disservice to not really see people for who they are. Even their broken, dark parts. I see the people I love now, like really, really see them. And they let me love them in completion. But even deeper than that I feel like is so powerful is I have let myself break in front of them. I have let them into the parts of me that I thought were so broken I had to be ashamed of. They have walked into those spaces and they have loved them. It's so powerful. Sometimes you think you need tons of friends and tons of love and tons of people around you. Quality over quantity. I have few friends, but this boat is overflowing in love. I've also learned that love doesn't own. Love is freedom. I've written about that in my poetry so many times. Everyone I love. I don't own or control them. So I do not put societal accepted frames around my love. And I intend to not do that going forward in my life. I find that those frames that society puts out aim to control. I want everyone I love to feel the freedom I gifted myself when I decided to consciously and intentionally love myself. Even in moments of fear, even when it feels like I'm losing someone I love. Even in those moments, I don't own them. I don't control them. It's freedom because it's love. I am also learning a lot of expectations people have for women, especially African women. I am definitely in my most liberated era. I am experiencing freedom, love, and pleasure. So much pleasure, and doing it in a space that is free of shame because of love. And I want this so badly for all African women. I want this so badly for us. So I want you, when you listen to this, to make the decision to love yourself. All parts of you, even the broken and the dark. Just let love unveil who you really are. Let love interrupt the performative versions of you. Let love nudge you to show up for yourself. Let love guide you in ensuring your mind, your spirit, and your body are healthy. You are courageous enough to love yourself. You really are. And what I've learned in this experience is that loving yourself really is the key. I'm so happy I get to share this with you in such a beautiful way. I always wondered how I would eventually share all the developments in my life. And I kind of like low-key was just like, well, before it goes global, I might as well share it here. But, oh my goodness. This is my favorite version of me. This really feels like me, man. Oh, this really feels like me. And I'm just having so much fun getting to know this version of me and getting to experience her and also loving her. And so I really just hope this connects with you. I don't know what it is you're navigating that's a challenge. I don't know what transformation you are at the start of. You can kind of see coming your way. You are in the middle of, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure whatever it is, loving yourself intentionally and consciously will make a world of a difference. And I hope that happens for you. Okay, so I completely hijacked this episode. My producer's gonna wonder, like, what do you mean Monica's episode wasn't flighted? Well, it'll be here. Part 2 will be here next week. I promise. Part 2 will be here next week. And it's going to be powerful. In fact, at the very end of this episode, I'm going to leave you with a snippet of what you can expect in part 2 of Monica's story. But before we get to that, if you are in Kenya, make sure you catch us on Trace FM every Monday and Wednesday at 1 p.m. and 11 p.m. Fridays at 1 p.m. Just go to traceradio.co.ke to stream. I'm wishing you a week full of love ahead. And next week, I'm not going to hijack any episodes. It's going to be back to part 2 of Monica's story. So this is what you can expect in next week's episode.
So I was on my second drip. Mamangu sasa tu akaanza kusema hapa sioni. She even started telling my husband, because in our cultures, if you have not paid dowry, you are not allowed to bury that woman in case she dies. So my mom started bringing up that story of my husband ajiprepare hata na watu wake waende wapeane kitu kidogo so that I die nikiwa sasa nimekuwa recognized kama bibi yake. In fact, every time there was a death announcement, many people used to think it's my death announcement that is announced.
That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.